I was going to say people might be interested in the reusing a character section on page 158, which has weird, odd things to say about, like, well, using characters again, and it intersects a little bit with the time for things happening, but it's kind of.
Let's take a look at that. I'm not remembering.
It's very much. It's very. It's just after the how do you advance your character by inspiration point of view. And it's like you can do this and you can get better and it's great, and you can use your characters again, or not if you don't feel like it, or perhaps you want to stay with your character. It's just very like.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a very odd couple of paragraphs. That was all I was thinking.
Well, it's kind of interesting. No. It's almost as though the default is not doing it, right? It's almost as though the default is just playing someone else or never playing again or something.
I feel like it's written by a person who loves the character creation system and can't resist creating a new character.
Right.
But at the same time, you kind of they're so not
stables.
Characters that just sit there and you can admire them. You want to see them resolve something, do something. So
then you're right. It tap dances. I mean, it raises the possibility of playing a stable of characters only to shoot it down in the next sentence, which is very common prose in the improvement sections of games of this era, or certain other games where they say, well, you could do it this way. Oh, but that way would suck. So here's why you wouldn't. You're like, well, wait a minute. Why do we even do that merry-go-round?
Right.
And then it's all under the sort of, and the GM can tell you can't use your character again because we're playing 100 years later and things like that anyway.
It's weird.
Which the entire thing is.
The referee should allow the players the option of creating new characters, ... Then it says, if you become dissatisfied with the character, work at making him into the kind of character you want. Don't abandon him. So it's kind of like, yeah, you can shift to a different character, but only if you like the ones you've got.
It's very.
That's the logic. You're like, well, hold on here. You know?
Some of it is,
this is like a random walk. Yeah.
Some of it does feel a bit like it's on the edge of being, when you've played out the story that this character presented you with, when you rolled all those random dice earlier.
Right. So if you've run out of all of the conflicts that were inherent to the character, now what?
Right.
But it couches it as, if you don't like them because they haven't reached the end yet, so that's why.
He comes up with these weird things like, it can be hard to participate if the referee's running an adventure that takes place 100 years before your character was born! ! As if that happens.
Right.
Well, I was also struck by the way it talks about not abandoning a character because you may want to develop the personality.
Which is great.
Which is great. But then, like that last paragraph gives the example. Likewise, your character may not fit the plot of a certain adventure if the adventure concerns a group of elves escorting a fairy princess to a magical festival. Right? It comes up with this very it's just like the 100 years thing. It's like he comes way out of left field with the when you wouldn't. You're like,
right.
I could come up with a lot of weird ass reasons not to, but that's not really much of a rule.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, Ross. This is one of those schizophrenic. He didn't know what he wanted to say, and it's like he wrote the sentence and then figured out a way to disagree, and then figured out a way to disagree with that, and then just kept going. Yeah. I'm sorry. What was that?
All I was going to say is I think you kind of have to use it sensibly. You have to take the tools and use the tools rather than the advice to how to use the tools.
Right. Because the tools themselves are actually quite nice. Especially they had that business about goals in character creation. When all is said and done, you breathe in a couple of times and say, look at this mass of cool spaghetti, which is connecting into something even as I look at it. Now give it a goal. Right? And there's almost no guidelines at all for goals, which is kind of cool. It is purely emergent. Well, so what's wrong with goals emerging through play on an ongoing basis? I've dug my way out or suffered badly through all of the hassles that I rolled, but I've met people since then, right? I've done things since then, right? I've got things since then, right? Well, now what's my goal? I mean, it seems like a very organic and easy thing to do.
And very much, I mean, obviously, it would be difficult for the goals to just be rolled on a random table anyway.
Right.
Probably.
Right. Well, because again,
you also don't have the thing you were talking about earlier, which is you rolled up 2 personality traits. What point do you start to change those? And you rolled up 2 goals. What point do you start to change
right.
those?
And I actually struggled with that a little bit. Slovenly and rude, slovenly in particular, struck me as a developmental thing for this character. You know, something that I am going to and fortunately I have that curse thing to mess with. Rolling the curse meant that I had to drop my fate by 1. And it also, in my opinion, justified my character's wrinkles.
Right.
So, therefore, I'm hoping that lifting the curse, which I have now written down as a goal, is something that will permit me to change stuff that I rolled.
Right.
Self-imposed constraint. I mean, it's not. It doesn't say in the rules that you have to, you know, overcome your traits with a roll in order to change them. But self-imposed, or at least as a plot thing in my mind, as a goal, that's related enough.
There doesn't seem any reason why you shouldn't change them. Given that you chose them in the first place, essentially by not choosing to re-roll them.
True. Or right, you're choosing. You chose not to override them. After all,
the only things you're not allowed to do that with are the initial base skill roll.
Right.
Everything else it says roll on the table, and if you don't like it, pick something else.
Tweak it a bit. So,
but makes that you role play properly, or the referee will not give you any bonus inspiration. The referee is very bad at that.
Yes. So anyway, though, it's quite fascinating to contrast this with a couple of the other games that I've been delving into, and also especially with the current discussion with Manu about his Star Wars game and his D&D game.